Welcome to You Can Call Me Goddess because you're so much more than a queen. My name is Manouk. I am a trained intuitive energy healer specialized in transforming your body and your life. In this podcast, we are going to be diving into everything to unlock the goddess that you are within you. Think of it as the ultimate glow up from the inside out. It's time to unlock your power. It's time to unlock your magic. So sit back and enjoy the show. Hello, beautiful, and welcome back to another You Can Call Me Goddess podcast. And in today's podcast, we are going to be talking about self-love. And I know when I started learning or hearing about self-love, or someone told me that I needed to work on my self-love, I immediately felt like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. I've worked on that so hard. I had this immediate feeling of rejection towards it because it felt like I had been working on self-awareness, self-love so much, like what else could there be? But I am going to tell you that there is so much more to this topic. And even if you feel like you've been doing all the work on self-love and self-image healing and all of this stuff, please stick around because what I'm going to tell you today is going to be a completely different perspective on this, a perspective that changed everything for me. Like when I started really understanding what self-love meant and true self-image healing, what that would mean for my financial situation, for my business, for my relationship, for my body, for my family, literally every area of my life transformed when I actually fully understood what self-love means and how to truly implement it. The reason you are probably feeling sick of it now and like you've done it all, and I've heard this multiple times to people that I've spoken to or that I've been like, maybe you need to work on this. We have this inner like, I don't want to work on it anymore because it feels like no matter what we do, it's not going to change. And the reason it's not changing is because you've been given the wrong tools. So today we are going to dive into that and hopefully shift your perspective on self-love for the rest of your life. And you're going to hopefully see why this is a key component to creating and manifesting the things that you desire. This has been a missing ingredient, like literally a missing ingredient, which we'll dive into a little bit later as well, because there are literal ingredients that you can plug into your energy to create the things that you desire. But self-love is literally a missing ingredient that I see a lot of us missing out on when it comes to achieving the results that you desire. So first, I want to give you the source definition of self-love. And the source definition of self-love is putting yourself first above all others across all 8 areas of life so that you can be of better service to others. And this is where a lot of us get it wrong. We have been told our entire lives that self-love indirectly means that you're selfish. So if you take care of yourself instead of taking care of others, that makes you selfish. Now, we have a natural instinct to want to be liked by others, to want to be accepted into the group from others. And this is actually goes back again to our biology, right? We have not, and I spoke about this recently, our bodies have not, our systems have not been updated since, I don't know, more than hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Like we've stayed the same and our bodies have stayed the same. So our systems have worked the same. Even in the times that we needed to survive, we needed to hunt and survive and stay in packs or groups to survive. And because of that, every time we feel like we are going to be rejected or ostracized from a group, that means that we are going to potentially have a higher chance of dying, right? It all goes back to things like that. When you think of it like that, when we don't want to be rejected from a group, we don't want to be pushed out of a group because that means that there's a higher potential of us dying and a lower potential of us surviving. So going back to that, we want to be liked. So every time the world tells you, if you do this, then you will not be liked, we go, oh, I can't do that. But that's also because we never were told the right understandings of these things. Now, I can go into the dark force, dark energy reasons for that, which I'm sure we will in some episodes, and I even spoke about it in one of the episodes. It's about the shadow side of the beauty industry. It is all about disconnecting you from your power and what you are capable of. And you hear me rattle on about this so much, but if you question things and you ever wonder if this is taking you away from your power instead of connecting you more with your power, most likely that means that there is some dark energy, dark force influence. And what I mean by that is when we connect fully with what we are capable of, when we connect fully with who we are and what we can do and how powerful we truly are, we become more of a threat to people that are trying to profit off of us, because now they have no more influence over us to tell us what to do, right? So going back to that, when you think of self-love and it now having a bad reputation because self-love means being selfish, we now no longer connect with self-love. And why do you think they don't want us to connect with self-love? Because when we actually start seeing our worth, when we actually start prioritizing ourselves so that we can be of better service to others, what does that mean? We become more powerful. We don't need to rely on outside things to make us feel valuable because we feel it within ourselves. That is why whenever these things get told to you and you're misled in these areas, it is because it takes you away from your connection to your inner power, your capabilities, and what you can create. So my mission is to get you back to connecting with that. So that's what we're going to be diving into today in regards to self-love. And more specifically, I'm hoping to give you a different perspective on self-love when it comes to your financial situation, when it comes to your success, and you will see how this applies in all other areas. Hopefully, you're going to connect the dots. I'm going to help you connect the dots because yes, it is going to give you more financial abundance when you apply these things. Yes, it is going to give you more success when you apply these things, but it's also going to shift so many other things like your body, like your relationships, like your love life, like all the areas of life are affected by you connecting with self-love. That is also because on a deeper level, our souls are here to overcome a soul lesson. And each and every one of us has a soul lesson to overcome. Each and every one of those soul lessons is connected to a self-love issue. Most of the time, self-love or self-image issue. We are here to connect back to how perfect and valuable we are. And to help you connect with that right now, I want you to think about source. And I actually want to do a podcast about this, which I'm hoping to do soon. But I don't think I've ever fully explained or talked about the fact that who source is or what source is. So I wanted to address that today. And maybe I'll do a whole podcast on it because funnily enough, I've actually never been religious ever in my life. But I always knew that there was like a higher power. There was something more to everything. And I do discuss that in some of the podcasts, how I was always discovering like astrology and all of this stuff and like trying to dive deeper into and get a deeper understanding of my purpose, right? Again, connecting back to the self-love. So source is, you can call source the creator, God, the universe, whatever resonates with you. But source to me is like God, is the universe. And source is, I connect with source on a daily basis. And that's why I want to talk about that because I actually, like I said, I never grew up religiously, but I knew that there was a higher power. And now having developed my intuition, there's no denying it because I connect with source. I channel source. And it is the most amazing thing that you will do when you develop your intuition. And my soul just knew that this was right. So I just wanted to clarify that. So the source understanding, meaning the understanding from the universe, what it actually means, what we're here to do is source put us here on this planet, in this realm. And if you think about source is perfect, right? Everything he creates is perfect. So why the hell would he make you imperfect? Like, please, why would he do that? If everything he designs, everything he creates, or source creates, is perfect, then why would he make you imperfect? So first of all, I want you to ask that question to yourself, because we are so hung up on changing ourselves. And that is not because in our core, we believe that that is the truth. That is because we are picking up on everybody else's thoughts on this topic. And we are being almost brainwashed to believe that we are not perfect, to disconnect us from our perfection and what we are capable of creating. So today, I hope you can start to see how you are absolutely perfect, specifically because each and every one of us has been put on this planet, in this realm, to fulfill our own soul mission, our own soul lesson, our soul path, soul pull is what we call it. We like to call it. And I actually offer a free intuitive analysis, and we dive deeper into your soul and what the biggest blocks are, and actually how connected you are with your true self, and what your biggest block is when it comes to self-love or self-image. So please, I put it in the show notes. If you want more clarity on what is your biggest block and how to move forward, apply for the free intuitive analysis, and I will dive into all of that, and you get clarity on what it is that has been holding you back. And you'll understand that self-love is a massive component of this. So now that you understand that, right? So Source made you perfect for whatever you are meant to do on this planet. So think of me, well, I don't know, you don't know this, but I'm going to tell you now. If I were to worry, like I worried a lot about my legs. So my legs were something that I was always insecure about. But Source made me exactly how I'm meant to be made for this life. So he gave me muscular legs for a reason. That is to fulfill my soul path. It is to be better at what I'm meant to be doing. It's to also go down this path of loving my body, loving who I am, recognizing my strength. And if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to fulfill my soul path. Now we can take it to a whole nother level. For example, it's not that I was that worried about it, but I have flat feet. It's not very, to me, I would always think it's not very feminine. I wanted that beautiful curve in my foot, but Source made me this way. And it's funny because I think about it. I now have, I have my passion hobby. My passion hobby is so random, but yeah, it's great. I'm doing samurai sword fighting. And we use our feet a lot to like make impact with the sword. I know it's not going to make any sense, but you can look it up. It's called kendo. And I was like, oh, maybe that's why I have really flat feet. Still need to ask Source about that actually. But I have really flat feet. And maybe it's because so that I can be better at my, what they call fumikomi. You're not going to understand what I mean. But so that I can... so that I can make the motion with my sword and my foot, and it makes it a lot easier. So I know, super random turn of events, but what I'm trying to say here is that you are perfect the way that you are. The only reason you are wanting to shift things about your body is because you are not seeing your perfection, and that has to do with self-love and self-image. And we have been put on this planet to reconnect back to our self-love and self-image. And all of our soul lessons come down to that. So they all connect back to a self-image or a self-love issue. And some of us are here to remember our how that we are perfect, and some of us have to learn that in this life. And that all depends on your frequency, but it all connects back to that. So when we fulfill and fully lock in and believe that we are perfect, heal our self-image and heal our self-love, what that means is that we balance all 8 areas of our life out. Now, if you have an understanding of reflections, if you don't, I recommend you dive into some of the podcasts that talk about that. You'll hear about it in the ones that I talk about the body. And I will also be doing more webinar series on this topic. I actually talk about reflections all the time. So I'm sure feel in and see which podcast pops up, but I talk about it a lot. But reflections are basically people reflecting back to us what we feel subconsciously. And these reflections come up because of an imbalance. in our emotions and in how we feel about ourselves. So if all 8 areas of our life are balanced, that means there is no reflections anymore. And that also helps us with negative energies, because negative energies only connect with us when we are out of balance. So that means when we are balanced in all 8 areas of our life, we are basically living the dream. Everything is balanced. Everything is right. We won't be affected by things anymore. And that is the ultimate achievement. So the ultimate achievement is complete self-love, complete self-image healing. And that is why this is so important, because when you fully love yourself, you will achieve everything that you've been wanting to achieve in your life. And that is why it is so important. Now, I'm going to link it back, and I'll tell you, because again, I understand. I've been there. I have been in a session where I first started out navigating this world. And it's super interesting because when I first started navigating, financial mastery and the spiritual laws of finances and how that all works, I remember diving into this content and having a deeper understanding of all of this and learning about the spiritual laws of finances. The first thing that I learned was that you can't attain the amount of wealth that you desire if you do not feel deserving of it. So the biggest component that shifted for me when I started diving into the spiritual laws of the universe when it came to finances and abundance was that I needed to work on my self-love. I needed to work on my self-love. That is why I wasn't getting or maintaining the financial abundance that I desired. Because if I don't feel deserving of the financial abundance that is meant to come my way, then it will not come my way. That is literally one, and I'm giving this to you now, so that is literally one of the ingredients to financial abundance. It is feeling deserving of it. Now, there are more components to that, and I'm only touching upon a small component of how this ingredient works. So if, for example, you start trying to root to the deservingness and it doesn't work yet, that is because there are more deeper understandings that we can't get into in this hour of me talking about all of this and self-love. But please feel free, if you want to learn more about that, to reach out. This is why I harp on self-love so much and self-image so much, because it is the missing component to the things that you have been trying to create. But that is literally one of the components, feeling deserving of it. If you are doing everything that you can to create financial abundance, to create the things that you want in your life, but you do not feel deserving of it, then it will not be magnetized to you. You will not be able to hold that financial abundance, or it will not be attracted to you. You see, money doesn't care who you are in a way. It just cares about if you carry the ingredients to hold it or not. So if you feel deserving of the money that you desire, which again is a self-love, self-image thing, then you are going to be able to attract that wealth into your life. And this is why a lot of people, especially if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably spiritual, you're probably empathetic, you're probably wanting to be liked by a lot of people and wanting to help a lot of people out of the goodness of your heart. But the problem with that is that we often don't feel deserving of the financial abundance, because as good people, we've been taught not to be greedy, right? But it's not greedy. It's being in fair exchange. And that is a whole nother component of this, is that if we do not value the things that we say, other people will not value them either. And it's so interesting. I was at a networking event the other day, and one of the hostesses actually said out loud, and I noticed how big of a problem when you start focusing on this. This is such a big component, and people really struggle with this. And it actually makes me so sad because I used to feel that way too until I started shifting my perspective on this stuff, because we don't feel how valuable we are. And it's so sad because each and every one of you is extremely valuable. You are just not realizing where you're impacting other people's lives. So this lady said, because she wanted to interview me for the next networking event. I was like, yeah, sure, that's absolutely fine. She's like, oh yeah, it's so funny. I wouldn't even know what to say. I never feel like I have anything valuable to say. Like, what would I bring? What would I bring to the table? And this is so ingrained in every one of us. It's your stories that bring things to the table. It's the ability to connect with someone. It could literally be a sentence that someone says to you it's literally a sentence that you say to someone else that could change someone else's life. I had a membership call with my members, and one of the members that I had said about another member that a thing that she had said in the membership call had always stuck with her. I can't remember what it was, but it was one sentence that she said, and it changed her perspective on such a big component of her life forever. So without you knowing it, you are changing lives wherever you go. And this is another one of those things, we don't value ourselves. When we have so much, each and every one of you has so much to bring to the table. We're all living a specific life with specific experiences. And you're changing lives by listening to this podcast. And then maybe because you're changing my life by being here and listening to this. And then maybe if you smile at someone down the street, you're changing that person's life. Maybe they needed that smile more than anything else in the world because they were feeling so sad that day. Maybe by doing something negative even, you're changing lives because it made them rethink about the way that they were behaving or something that they were doing or a perspective. So we don't see the value in what we're saying. And so what I'm trying to say with that is, the problem with that is if you do not value the things that you say, how can you expect other people to value you? So if you're trying to work on your financial abundance or your relationship and you don't value yourself, then how can you expect others to value you? This is where that self-love, self-image component is such a big gap that is stopping you from creating the thing that you desire. And this is not just you. When I look intuitively on everybody, almost everybody that I do a read on or look into, they only love themselves between 2 to maybe 10% across all 8 areas. So, and that's exciting when you start working on that. Because the moment you start increasing that self-love number, you will notice things start to change. They do. When I started applying the tools that I was getting to increase my self-love, when I started working on those tools, I started plugging those ingredients into my creator field. And I started shifting that. Specifically, for example, even just by feeling deserving of the financial abundance that was meant for me. Within a couple of days of doing that, my partner's behavior shifted towards me completely. I made new friends in the neighborhood. I hadn't made friends because I moved countries a year before then, and I hadn't connected with anyone. But after plugging those ingredients, I made new friends within a few days that are now friends for life. My business started blowing up. literally within a small time span from me plugging these ingredients of self-love. And we are sleeping on this. We are sleeping on the self-love component because we have been told that self-love is selfish. I'm going to tell you that the opposite is true, because if you don't prioritize yourself, first of all, you have so much to bring and offer to the world. You are stopping people from being able to access that when you don't value the things that you say, so they can't have access to the life changes that you're bringing. And second of all, thinking of it like this, if you think of with the prioritizing yourself, if you think of a mom, because this just paints the perfect picture for me at least, and you think of a mom who makes sure that she gets sleep, she exercises, and she makes sure that she always, has a nutritional diet, takes care of herself, doesn't neglect herself, and also fulfills her motherly duties. And then you think of a mom who is putting her kids above everybody else, her partner above everybody else. She doesn't make time for herself. She doesn't sleep. She doesn't make sure that she has her meals or works out. Who's going to be the better mother at the end of the day? The one that prioritizes herself, because her battery is full. She's going to be more present with her kids. She's going to be more present with her partner. She's going to feel better. She's also probably going to be more successful in whatever career that she is doing, if she has any, or she's just going to be the best mom ever because she's taking care of herself. When you choose to not prioritize yourself over everybody else, you're actually doing everybody else a disservice, because you're giving everybody a percentage of who you are. Now, speaking of that, I want to tie it into the financial area. And again, with that money component, if you think about being able to change someone's life with the service that you provide, whatever it may be, when you do something for free, a lot of the time, people will not value it. And believe me, I know, because I've been on the other end. I have entered free memberships, never looked at the content, ever. Why? Because I didn't have any skin in the game. There was no value tied to it. Now, I've had this, because I used to be a personal trainer, clients that paid for a session with me would always show up. Well, almost always. Because they had skin in the game. So they were going to go show up. On their own, if I told them go to the gym then, they didn't have as much skin in the game. Of course, we can change that with perspective, which I did with coaching. Like, you are still costing yourself money by not going to the gym because you're not taking care of yourself. You're not prioritizing yourself. See, making the circle, how does that say? Closing the loop. So, there's that. But still, when there's skin in the game, you take it seriously. When you invest a certain amount of money in something, you take it seriously. You value it. Okay, we're going to take this from a flip side, because we've spoken about this before. But how about if whatever service you're providing, let's, for example, say that you're a coach, right? And this person pays you $20 for a session. Do you think you are going to give the best of the best for $20? Or when someone pays you $1,000 for a session, do you think you're going to do the best of the best? In that $1,000 session, you want to make sure that the person gets their money's worth. So you are going to pull all the tricks out of the bag to make sure that you are doing the best that you can. Now, when someone pays $20 for a session, a lot of the time, and it's not a conscious thing that you do, this is a subconscious thing that you feel. You are not going to feel valued for the amount of work that you are putting in. So therefore, without consciously knowing, you're not going to give as much of yourself because of the fair energetic exchange. Again, you're not conscious of this. So what happens is if you're offering a service that is too low for the amount of effort that you are putting in, first of all, you're doing the customer a disservice because the customer is not going to take it as seriously. And therefore, these life-changing tools or this life-changing information or the things that you're giving them, they are not going to take on board as seriously. Again, there is not enough skin in the game. Second of all, if you are not being fairly compensated for the amount of work that you are putting in, you are not going to want to put in all the effort. I don't know about you, but I used to be a waitress. And when I was a waitress back in the day, when I didn't feel as valued all the time for all the work that I was doing, so you don't put in as much effort. The moment you get a raise, you want to show off. You're going to do better because you want to show that you were worth the investment. And this is a subconscious thing. This is not something that you do consciously. So how does this tie in with self-love? Well, self-love is prioritizing yourself so that you can be of better service to others. If you are not prioritizing your value, then you are not going to be of better service to others. This needs to I want you to take this with a grain of salt, because a way you can start recognizing if you're feeling undervalued for the amount of work that you are doing is if you don't find any fulfillment in the thing that you are doing anymore. You're not even, it's something that you used to love doing, but now you feel like it's costing you too much effort for what you're being compensated for. The reason I'm telling you this is because self-love is so much more than healing the way that you see yourself. And that's why there's so many components and so many layers to this. That is the overall understanding of it. But because we don't see the implications of self-love in so many areas of our life, we don't take it seriously enough. And it's literally costing you, like I'm explaining to you now. You're not aware that you are feeling undervalued. And that's why you probably, first of all, you're undervaluing yourself, and that's what's creating the situation. So when you undervalue yourself, other people are going to undervalue you. So if you're undervaluing who you are and what you're capable of and what you bring to the table, then other people are going to undervalue that. So for example, if you're at work and you want a raise, but you are not valuing yourself, you are not going to get that raise because your creator field says to the world, I am not valuable. There is someone better. So we want to shift that by healing our self-image so that we get that raise, so that we see our value. Now, plug and play this in the other areas of your life, in your romantic relationship. If you're feeling undervalued in your romantic relationship, it is because you're probably not prioritizing yourself. You're not valuing yourself. You're not putting yourself first. So then why would your partner put you first if you're not even doing it for yourself? And we overcomplicate this because when we think of self-love, we think it has to be something like big that we're doing, like taking like self-care days. But self-care days is something completely different than self-love. Self-love is prioritizing yourself in every situation. So every single situation, before you go into any activity, doing something for yourself before you do something for others. And that can be as simple as taking a moment to breathe and think of what you need. Sipping a glass of water. Now, again, if you've been doing that in some of the areas of life, and for those of you who had the intuitive analysis, you know I harp on this because it is so important, right? So for those of you that have been struggling with self-love and you're like, yeah, but I'm doing it everywhere. There are 8 areas of life. So if you are not getting the shifts and people aren't prioritizing you, you're not noticing how it's shifting things in your reality, it could be because you're still missing a component. And that could be maybe you're not prioritizing yourself in the financial area of life. So maybe you're not paying yourself out first before paying others. And these are some of the things that we talk about in the sessions that I do in my programs. These are big things that shift everything. That is why Your Body's Magic is a program that I have. We dive into that because the body also shifts due to self-love and self-image. The body is communicating to you where you are stuck in these areas. So it all comes back to self-love and self-image. And it is so important for us to shift our perspectives around these topics and actually start honing in on our self-love and self-image, because it is the key to the thing that you have been trying to achieve. I can almost guarantee that this is one of the components that needs to shift, because I had been working on this for a while and got triggered because I was told there was a value piece that I needed to work on. This was a while back. And I was so triggered because I was like, what do you mean? I've been working on this for so long. Literally what I talked to you about in the beginning of this podcast. If you're feeling that way, if you're feeling triggered, that means it is for you 100%. Because the deeper that I looked, the more that I found there were more pieces to iron out when it comes to self-love. This is an ongoing process until you fully get to high 90s in self-love, self-image across all 8 areas of life. And when you've done that, you've cracked the code. That's when that abundance comes your way. That's when you get the love that you deserve. That's when your body starts to shift. Look at people that are struggling and they're going through a difficult phase in their life. Their body is also going through difficulties. You see it in their skin. You see it in their weight. You see it in their glow. It's because their body's communicating to them that there is an emotional imbalance. They are not applying self-love, or they have not healed their self-image in one or more areas of their life. And the body is trying to communicate that and specifically telling you what you need to shift depending on the ailments, the symptoms, and where it is. And the more you discover about this, the more you find out that self-love and healing and putting yourself first and healing your self-image, the more you realize that that is at the core of everything that you want to achieve in your life, the more you notice what has been holding you back. And it's one of these things that we need to start recognizing more, that self-love is in fact not selfish. Self-love is the key to the kingdom, to what you're trying to create in this life. It is valuing yourself. It is prioritizing yourself over others, because when we do not do that, we lose out on the things that we are trying to create. And again, I want to remind you, if you think of someone in your life who has been prioritizing everybody over themselves, have they got the thing that they desired? Did they manage to achieve that success? Or was it the person that decided to choose themselves over everybody else? Not in a selfish way, but in a I'm going to prioritize myself way so that I can be better for others. And there is a difference there, because we live in a world of, and I've spoken about this, of instant gratification, and we live in a world of likes and comments and going viral. But that is not self-love. That is doing it for validation. So if you're taking an action because you want confirmation or validation from the external world, that isn't self-love. That is something different. That is trying to fill a hole that you feel within yourself, instead of going internally and feeling what it is that you need to shift your reality, because we live in an inside-out world. So if you don't heal the way that you see yourself, then you are not going to shift your reality. The obstacles that you're experiencing in your life are going to keep popping up because they are here to show you that you are off balance, that you need to realign your path to achieve the thing that you desire in your life. And that's where we get it wrong a lot of the time, because we're looking for external validation. We're looking for other people to tell us that we are doing it right. We're looking for other people to tell us that we're beautiful. But you're not going to feel that. You're not going to feel prioritized. You're not going to feel that love. You're not going to feel that validation. It may be fleeting when you get those likes or when you go viral, but you're not going to really feel it, and nothing is going to actually shift until you give it to yourself. That is our entire mission on this planet. That is the purpose that we have, is reconnecting with that and getting everybody else to reconnect with that. Imagine if everybody could see themselves as perfect and capable and could connect with their powers and what they are capable of creating. I think the world would be a completely different place. Completely different place. And it starts with you. We always look at what is the big thing that we need to change in this world. Start with you. Because the ripple effect of that is so much more impactful than trying to change the external. Focus on how you can shift yourself. And when you start prioritizing yourself and really start implementing self-love, seeing your value, what you'll start noticing is that opportunities will present themselves. Because you are prioritizing yourself, you're going to follow the things that bring you joy and that bring you closer to what you're meant to be doing in this life. You're going to attract the partner that is meant for you in this life because you prioritized yourself. So you're following what your core self wants you to do. You're listening to what you need, and you're making sure that you're a priority. Now that you're a priority, other people are going to prioritize you. And this is beneficial to everybody who is meant to learn something from you, who is meant to grow from you, because they're going to think of you first. So if you've been slaving away, and if you've been doing everything for everybody else because you're a good person and you want to help other people, you're going to do them so much better by taking care of yourself. Because they will only see your value the moment that you see your value. Otherwise, they'll keep reflecting back at you, even if they don't believe it. The opposite. So, and just to finish that off, it's so interesting, right? I actually know of someone who was struggling with this, that, she felt undervalued in her relationship. And the funny thing is, everybody else heard about how much her partner valued her. Everybody else, except for her. So to everybody else, he was telling everybody how much he valued his partner, but because his partner was not an energetic match to hearing it and didn't see her own value, she would never hear it from her own partner. The universe works in crazy ways, and when you start hacking this, everything starts to change. So if you want to get more clarity on what it is that has been holding you back, what has been blocking the progress that you've been trying to make in your life, then check the show notes. I have put the link to apply for a free intuitive analysis there, or come join my weekly webinars where we dive deeper into these podcasts. To do that, join the free membership where I also dive into, you've got lots of free content in there, and you get access to the free webinars every single week to start diving deeper into these topics and start hacking life. It's a hack. This is all a hack. But first, you need to start connecting with your self-love and self-image to start changing your life. So, as always, let me know what it is that you want to dive deeper into, how this shifted things for you. I would love to hear it. And if you're still feeling stuck, it is because I haven't explained something correctly or you're missing a component. So please feel free to reach out to info@manouksgoddessacademy.com. You can find all the information in the show notes. I'm always here to help guide you, to get you to the right steps to start opening up your life where it is feeling stuck, and to start creating the success that is meant for you, because you are meant for so much more, and you are so much more powerful than you even realize. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. It truly means the world to me, and I know that you are going to be doing amazing things with this information, and I appreciate you so much, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much for listening to You Can Call Me Goddess. I am so happy that you joined us in this show today. If you feel like this podcast gave you any sort of life change or value, then share it with someone you think would also get a lot of value out of it, because maybe it could just be that one thing that changes that person's life. If you enjoyed the show, please give it a nice rating below or in the show, because we would love to expand more on topics that you enjoy and keep this podcast up and running. Anyways, thank you, beautiful, and I hope to see you in the next podcast.